Hi everybody, happy World Carnivore Month. For those of you who did not know, January is World Carnivore Month, and I am a strong proponent of the carnivore diet for particular conditions, particularly autoimmune conditions, skin conditions, gut health, and pretty much anything related to autoimmunity or chronic inflammation. A lot of people knock the carnivore diet because it has a heavy emphasis of beef and saturated fat. Although most of the medical community is kind of clear on the concept of dietary cholesterol and it being pretty much benign, there's still a lot of debate with regards to saturated fat and the resultant elevated LDL that happens in a good amount of people when eating saturated fat. So you have a lot of doctors who might recommend a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, but they're still very hesitant on the idea of having a diet that's high in saturated fat long term. So I decided to do a different approach to World Carnivore Month for January. I've done carnivore in the past, but and I checked my lab work and compared it to previous diets. But when I did carnivore, I did eat a good amount of pork and a good amount of poultry, both of which have a pretty good percentage of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Pork also has some monounsaturated fatty acids. So, I thought it would be a nice experiment to focus solely on saturated fat. And so I'm going to do a diet made up of predominantly beef and dairy, as well as some cacao butter, which is basically 100% dark chocolate, or Keto Bricks. So shout out to Keto Bricks for the perfect keto macros and being made of cacao butter. So those will be my major saturated fat sources. I will not be using olive oil, and we'll be using mostly ghee and butter and beef tallow. Maybe some coconut oil or MCT oil here and there because that is a plant source of saturated fat. I'll also probably be doing some eggs just because just to mix things up. I love eggs, so I'll be continuing to do that, even though there is some polyunsaturated fatty acids in eggs as well as monounsaturated fatty acids. Probably more. The ratio depends, I think, a lot on what the eggs are fed, and I am lucky enough to have a particularly very good source of eggs where, these chickens are pastured. They're, left out in the open, and they're predominantly eating, their natural diet of insects and worms, and, they're basically carnivorous. And so, the fatty acid profile for these eggs are likely to be, with a higher saturated fat content than a traditional egg, which is, which comes from a chicken fed mostly grains and corn. And so, I strongly believe that a good healthy egg is probably more, of saturated fat and monosaturated fats. And so it has a healthier, fatty acid profile than your standard, grocery store egg. So I will be doing this for a month. I'll be checking my labs. I'll be monitoring my physique. I'll be monitoring my recovery numbers through my Oura Ring, checking my HRV, and just checking my overall mood and how I feel. And I'll be following this up in February with a Mediterranean ketogenic diet. So I'll be completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'll be eating mostly monounsaturated fatty acids or fats through fish and olive oil and nuts and avocados, things like that. So stay tuned. I'll be keeping you guys posted, and happy World Carnivore Month.